reporting for Southeast Asia, and funny story before we start, I was actually like, okay, I've been working on this for hours now, trying to get it perfect, and none of my videos are good. Like, I've got so many stupid bloopers, and I'm working on it, and I'm almost done. I've gone through the video, and I'm doing great. I've got one more point to make, and the custodian walks in, because I'm in the library doing this, to change my trash. So I have to start one more time, but I'm going to get it this time. So this article is actually coming from multiple sources, so I'm going to hook you guys up at the end of the video and post them in the bottom, okay? Let's start off. Southeast Asia, since the end of the Vietnam War, has actually become a hotbed for prostitution and human trafficking. Human trafficking, as defined by the UN Trafficking Protocol, is the recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, and receipt of a person by such means as threat or use of force or other forms of coercion, such as abduction, fraud, or deception, for the purpose of sexual exploitation. The anti-human trafficking group End Child Prostitution, End Child Pornography, and Trafficking of Children for Sexual Purposes discovered in a recent report that economic forces in Southeast Asia are set to drive more and more vulnerable children and young people to be exploited by the global sex trade. Increasing poverty, reduced government aid for social services, and the restrictive immigration laws for these sexual tourism destination countries are among the factors that heighten these children's vulnerability. The International Labor Organization estimates that sex tourism contributes more than 14% of the gross domestic products of Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, and Thailand. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime states in its 2009 Global Report on Trafficking in Persons that 79% of all trafficking dealt with sexual exploitation, which is the world's fastest growing criminal activity. Southeast Asian countries face international criticism for not doing more to combat human trafficking. In fact, in 2009, the Obama administration, on its UN watch list, added 4 dozen countries, including Cambodia and the Philippines, who are not doing enough to combat human trafficking. These countries may face sanctions in the coming years unless their reports improve. We have to turn our attention now to Myanmar, which just opened its doors to the world again after being a highly reclusive state under a dictator. But with this emergence, we're getting new statistics on human trafficking as it pertains to Myanmar. So a leading group in this research is the Trust Law Foundation, which is a Thomson Reuters Foundation service, and it reported in December 2012 on Myanmar's trafficked brides who are lured to China under false pretenses, usually the promise of work in positions like maids or things like that, only to be forced into marriages with Chinese men. This situation has largely arisen due to China's one-child policy, which was enacted in the 1970s in China in an effort to control the population growth, but it actually led to a huge imbalance in the male-to-female ratio. We've got nearly 120 males to 100 females in China, and it's also because of it's due to the cultural preference of Chinese people to have male offspring over female offspring. We see that Chinese men are increasingly turning to brokers to find wives from impoverished Myanmar, where a quarter of the population lives on $1 a day. Research shows that 7 out of 10 human trafficking cases in Myanmar in 2011 dealt with women and girls who were promised work in China and were forced into marriages with Chinese men. In 2009, China and Myanmar, the government signed a memorandum of understanding to try and tackle human trafficking between the two countries, but this plan of action has yet to be finalized, and so really what's happening right now is the question needs to be asked, what are they actually going to be doing in the future to combat this situation and to fix it, because so many women and girls are falling into prostitution, into trafficking, and losing their lives. So